Welcome to The Score, presented by the Khan Academies of Dallas-Fort Worth. I think the Cowboys will beat New Orleans next week.
The Cowboys got to go to New Orleans for a Saturday night game. That doesn't figure to turn out well for them.
A lot of people, said ha-ha, but because you're playing the Saints.
It's going to be very difficult to go into New Orleans, and if they don't win that game, which I don't think they will.
Coaches showed a clip of Tony Dungy, actually. They asked him about our chances in this game, and he said we had no chance.
If they don't win that game, which I don't think they will.
When somebody says that, you can't do something, that sort of puts, gas on the fire.
It was able to motivate us.
I think the Cowboys beat the Saints this Saturday.
Why do you think that?
I just think it. I just feel it.
The Score with Babe Laufenberg starts now.
It was billed as the biggest regular season game in New Orleans Saints history, but it winds up being the biggest regular season win for the Cowboys since about this time last December. Welcome to The Score. In for Babe Laufenberg, I'm Bill Jones, and we're talking all things Cowboys tonight. And we're doing it with Hall of Famer Randy White and Steve Dennis. And Randy, what Steve Dennis couldn't do last week, Tony Dungy did this week. He motivated the Cowboys to a victory.
Well, who are we going to use this week? Now, Steve, are you going to do it again? Are you going to tell them they can't win?
And they're still blaming me for losing last week.
Well, then you need to get credit for this win, too.
How come Dungy got him to win and I can't?
Well, because Dungy is one of the greatest coaches of all time, and Steve,
enough.
you are Steve.
He was on national television, too. We got to get you on national.
I find it interesting. We were discussing after this game how far back do you have to go to find a game, all things considered, this big, and you're just going back to last December.
I'm going back to last December, and in Week 15, Cowboys still had 2 games left in their season, and they beat the New York Giants at home, and you know what happened the last 2 games. My point is, you better win the next 2, or this game doesn't mean anything.
Just shows you how much smarter you are than all of us, because we didn't even consider that. We went back to Green Bay in 07 and maybe Indianapolis when they were undefeated before that, but we didn't even think about the Giants last year.
It was a big win, though, Randy, wasn't it?
That's a huge win. It's the biggest win I've seen for this football team since the Giants came last year, I guess. But it was a big win. I said, they had their backs against the wall. Everybody was against them. Everybody was picking them to lose, and they go out there and they whip an undefeated team handily. Not indicative of the score. They beat them better than the score looked, and fabulous game for the Dallas Cowboys.
Not everyone was picking them to lose. Babe Laufenberg, sitting right here a week ago, picked them to win, but Steve Dennis, you picked them to lose, didn't you?
Truth be told, though, Babe wanted to back out of that prediction the next day. He blamed it on being tired, but he didn't do it. But hey, one thing I can tell you, just from my own experience, considering everything, atmosphere, strength of competition, where the Cowboys' heads were, how loud that stadium was, man, it was loud. I can't remember a seemingly more hopeless situation with a lot riding on it since the 1999 playoff game in Minnesota. That Chan Gailey team couldn't handle it. This Wade Phillips team could.
New Orleans is a city that knows how to party, and they were into it, boy, full Mardi Gras style this weekend. It was all about an undefeated season and Drew Brees and who dat. It was about everything but the Dallas Cowboys.
Kidd fumbled the ball. The Cowboys recover. The Cowboys are going to beat the Saints.
It was awesome.
Suddenly put the shovel away unless you're giving it to Uncle Ned for a gardening Christmas present, because the playoff hopes aren't so dead yet.
Now can you say who dat? Who dat? Them party crashers.
Deep for Austin, got 2 men deep, got it at the 10.
We had to take the fight to them, not sit back and let their offense control what happens to the outcome of the game, and we did it.
Intercepted by Jenkins at the 5-yard line.
We found out a great deal about our football team tonight. Just the character that we're made of, the fight that we have, and really when no one really gave us a shot.
Circling away with a block to the 45, to the 50, to the 45.
Yeah, I mean, that was a fun one to win. That was really, really fun.
Crashing the Saints party, fun for sure, but really just a small part of this story. The bigger part is all about the new plans for a Cowboys party. Somewhere, Dandy Don could be singing, "Turn on the lights." The party is not over.
I know, I don't have to guess, I know that this gives us a success. You can go from here and play Washington, give us a chance to be the team we wanted to be when we started.
I'm just so happy our team. I've seen it go the other way, you know, and the team fold, and we didn't do that. We had a lot of fight all week, saying the right things, and we got to keep it going now.
This was a definitely turning point, another turning point, a defining moment in our season, and now we just got to continue to roll.
Okay, I want to say this with Randy listening because he hates how hard I am on Wade Phillips all the time. Got to give him tremendous credit for the defensive game plan against that explosive offense, and you got to give him credit for having his team ready to play. Best quarter of the year, that first quarter. Now, the question is, this seems like the kind of win that can define a season if success is ahead. Brady said you got to keep it rolling. Will they? Will they keep it rolling?
Well, I don't have a crystal ball, Steve, but in watching this team this year, they have played different this year. The intensity's been there. They played together as a unit all year. They hadn't had the success they wanted every week in, week out, but the effort's there. And if they play like they did last night for the rest of this season, I tell you what, they'll beat Washington and they'll beat Philadelphia, and everybody's going to have a Merry Christmas.
Well, and everyone in Dallas will have a Merry Christmas. And, of course, they become big Washington Redskin fans now because the Redskins play the Giants on Monday night. But let's take a look at what the Eagles did today. It was a snowstorm that pushed the start of the Eagles-Niners game back to 3 o'clock so crews could clear the stadium in the field. Donovan McNabb runs for a touchdown. He throws for another, including a strike to Deshaun Jackson. Jackson had 140 yards receiving. Eagles win their 5th straight game to clinch a playoff spot with the 27-13 victory. And so your NFC playoff picture, brought to you by Zero Energy, looks this way. Your division leaders, the Saints, now at 13-1, and tonight, yes, Minnesota has lost to Carolina. They are 11-3. It's the Eagles at 10-4, leading the East, and Arizona leading the West. The wild card race, it's the Packers, the Cowboys, and then, of course, you got the Giants playing on Monday at 7-6 right there. And you look at the Cowboys' playoff possibilities, and, Steve, what we said right off the top of this show, they better take care of business the last couple of weeks of this season.
Well, and I don't think the playoffs are a question now. Because,
oh, really?
Well, just because that game last night is going to give them a totally different outlook. I mean, you know, they were getting shaky with all this December talk, and they lost to good teams, but, you know, their psyche was a little low, Bill, I think. And now I think they'll play looser, and they'll beat Washington, get to 10 wins, and the Giants won't be able to get them.
Well, I mean, you want to start fast. In the middle of the season, you kind of have a little bit of a rough time, which they did here the last couple weeks prior to this game, and then you want to finish strong going into the playoffs, and that's what I think the Cowboys are gearing up to do right now. If they can finish strong, go up to Washington, beat Washington, get Philadelphia in here, beat Philadelphia, they'll have a lot of momentum going into those playoffs.
Well, and the other thing is, of course, last night's game was the best game the Cowboys played this season, especially the way they started the game. But when they went to Philadelphia and won against the Eagles last month, I think that was as close as the Cowboys came to playing like they did last night. And this season's going to come down to the last regular season game again against Philadelphia.
You know, and looking ahead, since I already have them in the playoffs, you know, that in the Philly game, I agree with you. That game and this game tells this team that they can go on the road and beat good teams. I mean, that's why the win last night was so big, because if they have any success in the postseason, they're going to have to do that. And now they know if they can go to New Orleans and beat that team like they did last night, they can go to Minnesota and win. They can go to Philly and win. They can go back to New Orleans and win.
All right, let's talk DeMarcus Ware, because a week ago at this time, I don't think there's very many people who could have predicted that DeMarcus Ware would be able to come back and play like he did in this game. Of course, after being carted off the field a week ago, he's just getting checked out of the hospital about this time a week ago. And great plays made by DeMarcus, Randy, both at the end of the first half and at the end of the game. How huge was the play at the end of the first half?
Those are huge plays, and those are plays that have been escaping them. They've been in those positions and had the opportunities to make those type plays, and they haven't gotten them. Last night they got them. DeMarcus Wade, some huge plays. And you see how that affects the outcome of the football game, the momentum of the game, the way the other guys come up and play. And those are the kind of plays that great players make in key situations. And last night they made those plays. DeMarcus made those plays.
You know, a 24-3 lead headed into the third quarter, and we'll get into Nick Folk here in just a little bit, but he saved this game at the end too with the sack of Breeze.
You know, we've always considered Randy White to be one of the toughest Cowboys of all time. You know, I think DeMarcus just jumped him. I think it was Randy, DeMarcus, and bam, now he's up there.
I hope he passes me.
but you know, and that's again, you know, I was kidding around the pregame show yesterday that the Cowboys are standing on the track and the train's coming. Who's going to do something? Well, DeMarcus is one of those guys that did something, and Tony Romo did something. They all played as well as they needed to play. Inspiration from DeMarcus. You see it right there, and again, we'll see what happens, but could be quite the defining game.
And you talk about leadership on this team. DeMarcus Ware is not the what you would call a vocal leader on the team, but it's playing like he did last night. That's what you call leadership, Randy.
Well, you lead by example. I mean, the effort. When other players watch this film and they see the type of, not just that particular play, you watch DeMarcus, he made a gutsy effort to come back in there and play. And not only did he come back and play, he played at a very high level. And when you watch the film and you see the effort that he's putting forth on every play, and you look at Spencer now, he's coming on. I mean, they got guys that are starting to play like they're capable of playing, and they're starting to believe they can play that way. That's the main thing. These guys are starting to believe that they can do it. And a game like last night, that could push them over the hump.
And some of them have been telling us that they just haven't played that well in December so far this year against the Giants in San Diego, and maybe they were right. They just had 2 bad games, and this game will get them back to playing the way you're talking about them.
And how about the way Victor Butler played in that game?
Yeah, he did play well because DeMarcus wasn't on the field very much.
Yeah.
Every time Victor Butler gets in there, Bill, he makes something happen. I'd find a way to get that guy in the game somewhere.
We need to take a quick break here on The Score. Up next, we got the latest on just who might be replacing Nick Folk as the Cowboys' place kicker. Not that he's been fired just yet. Plus, can Tony Romo lead the Cowboys to the playoffs? We'll talk about it next on The Score.
That was a fun one to win. That was really, really fun. And it was fun to prepare for this game. It was enjoyable. And these are the ones you loved playing.
Wow, can that guy play football in the month of December? Welcome back to The Score. In for Babe Laufenberg, I'm Bill Jones with Randy White and Steve Dennis. It does take 3 of us to fill in for Babe. How about Tony Romo in December this year? Take a look at the numbers. Nearly 70% completion rate, 6 touchdowns, the big stat there, no picks, a passer rating of nearly 110. And yes, you don't turn the ball over in December. You get protected by your offensive line and think good things can happen.
Well, Bill, as you know, I'm not a big stats guy, but those stats are impressive. And Tony Romo has been fantastic. He's made great decisions. He's taken a leadership role on that offense. It looks like he's in control of the offense. You know, the guys around him are responding. They're playing well. They're making big plays when they have to make big plays. Last night, they got a crucial 3rd down. They make 30 yards. You know, if they don't make that, maybe the game's different. But those are the kind of plays that that Tony's been making. And as long as he continues to do this, this team will continue to play well.
And they had a crucial 3rd down drop by Roy Williams earlier. One of the critical plays of this game, though, was with 6.5 minutes left, facing 3rd and 7. Cowboys called a timeout, and they figured out a way to get the ball to Miles Austin for that 32-yard
Miles
pickup.
Austin, man, got to go to the Pro Bowl. I mean, this guy.
And the Pro Bowl voting is this week.
This guy is doing it in big situations. That play right there was huge until Folk missed the field goal. But I mean, this Miles Austin, you know, here I go again. Now, if we can just get Ogletree on the field a little bit more. I mean, you know, hey, Roy cannot drop that ball on that big 3rd down, and that'll be the next discussion, as we always find things to nitpick about. But
something to get at, Steve.
you know, and Roy, quite frankly, was a 1-2 down player pretty much for that whole game. So I think the coaches are thinking the same way. Ogletree will probably start getting on the field a little bit more down the stretch here.
Well, and give credit to Jason Garrett for mixing things up on this offense. It was a lot like that Eagle game last month when you're getting the ball to Kevin Ogletree. John Phillips, the second tight end, had 3 catches in the game. Even Sam Hurd got a catch.
And, Bill, you know, it's good when them guys up front open the holes like they were last night. Them guys up front, we got to give them some credit, too, because I tell you, there were some holes there for Barber to run through and Felix to run through that well, I don't want to say I could have run through, but most guys could have got through them.
All right, we buried the lead. Let's get to Nick Folk. It's time to get to Nick Folk. You know, and the NFL Network gets a lot of criticism, but they came up with something huge last night. It was before the game, and they had perfect timing, too, because it was right before Nick Folk missed that 24-yard field goal. They showed him spraying the ball all over the place in pregame warm-ups. Give credit to the NFL Network there, but after the game last night, Jerry Jones didn't admit it, but Babe Laufenberg and everybody else sure had Nick Folk cut from this team.
One guy I know you didn't like to see the performance tonight. You will have a new kicker here next week. Nick Folk, I mean, I can make the statement, I think, that Nick Folk won't be your kicker. Who is that kicker going to be?
We all know against this team that that particular play might crazily have cost you a shot at the Super Bowl. Well, it's not a good picture right there. I've got to look at that picture.
Well, there's different reaction from different people. My wife, for one, said, oh, she felt so sorry for Nick Folk. But there aren't a lot of Cowboy fans feeling sorry because, as Jerry put it right there, it almost cost him a game last night.
Randy, you feel sorry for the kicker, too, don't you?
You know what? Honestly, I do feel sorry for this guy.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I do, as a person. But, you know, as a performer, being out there doing the job they're expecting him to do, I mean, he could kill him. He could kill him. And, you know, when's he going to regain his confidence? I agree with making a move.
I know that everything's positive with Wade right now, and it should be, but this is the problem you have when you have the nice head coach. He gives guys, I mean, he went too long with Nick Folk. He should not have been kicking in that football game. Should have got him out of there and went to another alternative.
And the other alternative, at least one of them, probably 3 or 4 of them, will make it their way to Valley Ranch tomorrow. Sean Sweezum, the former Washington Redskin, who we saw not only miss a field goal against the New Orleans Saints, but also miss a couple of field goals against the Cowboys. The only 3 that he's missed this season, and he will be at Valley Ranch for a tryout tomorrow.
Former Cowboy, too.
That's right.
You neglected to mention.
Well, and he's over the psycho thing. He's back on track, Bill.
All right. You mentioned Anthony Spencer, Randy, a little bit earlier, and the way he has come on here in the last month has really been something for this defense.
Yeah, I like to watch the defensive line. I kind of hone in on him, and he's either been there or he's close, and you watch him when he plays. He's hustling. You know, he's running to the ball. He's trying to make plays, and, you know, that's what they need. I mean, DeMarcus is, we know what DeMarcus is, but we get somebody else out there along with Ratliff in the middle that they got to worry about. Now, boy, you create some major problems out there for opposing teams.
And as you're talking about defensive players, and it was it surfaced so much in last night's game against Drew Brees, but the way Mike Jenkins is playing in that second game.
Unbelievable. And what a great story because of the whole deal with Skandrick in training camp, and they had a battle going, and you talk about separation. Now, Skandrick's playing pretty well, too, in the nickel, but Jenkins, I mean, all of a sudden, we're all changing our opinion of this guy. The coaches are. He's the guy that needs to go to the Pro Bowl with his 5th interception.
He's playing with confidence.
He's playing with confidence, and I tell you, he's playing to win. He's not playing not to lose. He's playing to win. He's taking some chances, some intelligent, smart chances, and it's turning out to, it's paying off for him. And he's got his head in the right spot. They got the right attitude. Those guys out there, they're on an island every week, man. They got to be bulletproof. I tell you what. And this kid is really coming through.
And we had the breaking news tonight. Steve Dennis has the Cowboys in the playoffs.
Oh, they're in the playoffs.
All right.
Okay, Washington.
Steve Dennis, Randy White, we appreciate it here on The Score. And The Score continues in a moment. We're talking Mavs and Cavs next.